If you haven't read Elantris or followed my look at the novel, you'll want to check it out first. This story will make little sense without it and give away a major part of the ending. The story is bookended by Raoden talking with Ash after he has been made king. He's curious about what happened to the Sion during that part of the battle, so Ash explains that he'd gone to inform the Elantrians about the supply of weapons that was coming, on the evening when the city was under attack and the warrior monks intended to slaughter every last Elantrian. The story then continues from the point of view of Metissi, an older girl who was once a beggar, before the Reod claimed her and she was sent to Elantris. It's her job Spirit, aka Raoden, told her to watch over the other children. She does what's needed to keep the poor little squirts in line even as all the craziness is happening outside. They don't know what's happening or that there's danger. They only know that the adults are creating aeons for some inexplicable reason. Soon it's realized that there is an attack and Metissi needs to get the children to safety. Ash arrives with his warning and Dash, Metissi's adoptive father, is there to protect them. Mostly. However, that's to simply buy time for them to escape. Metissi watches him fall before the attackers, but she's told the children to extinguish their lamp and instead she carries one in another direction. That way Ash can lead the children to a safe hiding place while Metissi leads the bad guys away. Of course, she is soon cornered, and while her own Aeon buys a little bit of time, she is soon caught and threatened with pain if she doesn't give up the location of the children. Fortunately, that's when Raoden succeeds in restoring the giant Aeon and sets Elantris back to rights. Her body is fully healed and transformed, and Dash, no longer a howeed from his wounds, rises up to deal with the one who is threatening her. A happy ending, including that Metissi got to adopt a Sion, one whose Aeon means bravery. There's nothing to really examine about the story itself. It is a straightforward short tale about courage in an extreme situation. A story about rising up and becoming what you can be even in the worst circumstances. Her full transformation to a proper Elantrian shows that her body now matches her spirit, glorified and bright. But the real significance here is what's behind the story. See, the story of the story begins in January 2006. Brandon Sanderson had been dating Pemberley, Emily, for about 2 months. Their relationship was still new, and although they weren't exclusive yet, Sanderson was already certain he wanted to marry her. A romantic. During one of their dates, Pemberley shared an incredible story. One of her 8th grade students, a girl named Metissi, had done a book report on Sanderson's novel, Elantris. Metissi didn't know her teacher was dating the author. Instead of a simple report, Metissi created a book in the style of the then-recent Dragonology, covering Elantris not just in textual detail, but complete with sketches, character bios, and materials from the book, all handmade. Pemberley showed this to Sanderson, who naturally was deeply moved by Metissi's effort and love for the book. Inspired, Sanderson decided to write a short story as a surprise thank you to Metissi. He had ideas that didn't make it into Elantris due to narrative constraints, such as the fate of the children in Elantris during the Dakor attack. In the back of his mind, he knew the children were saved by Dash and Ash the Sion, but he had to cut this subplot from the novel. I mean, the book is almost twice the length of The Hunt for Red October already, and not room for everything. He compares this to an iceberg, in fact, that there's a lot more underneath that a good author knows and informs the work, even though the reader doesn't actually directly experience it. Eager to write another Elantris story, but focused on the Mistborn series, Metissi's project provided the perfect motivation to revisit the world and fill in the gaps created by the necessity of remaining focused. Sanderson paused work on Mistborn, The Well of Ascension, to write this, The Hope of Elantris. Naming a character after Metissi herself, he chose to tell the story from her viewpoint rather than from Dash's perspective. The character Metissi in the story doesn't act like the real Metissi, whom Sanderson had never met, although he made the character resemble her based on Pemberley's description of the kid. After completing the story, he sent a copy with Pemberley to give to Metissi. It had been pretty unbelievable to get a story from her favorite author featuring her as a character. Hell, that'd probably be a fantasy come true for a lot of people. Well, it seems this gesture also earned Sanderson some creds with Pemberley, as they soon started dating exclusively and eventually married. Matissi gave Sanderson and Pemberley the original Elantrisology book as a wedding gift, and she remains a frequent attendee at his signings. In reflecting on the Hope of Elantris, Sanderson acknowledges its sentimental nature, intertwined with personal experiences from the time that he met and married his wife. Or, in other words, the iceberg is a different kind of iceberg in this case. The stuff under the surface isn't more about the fictional world, but more about Sanderson's own emotional one. Yeah, even he admits it might seem melodramatic, perhaps, but the story holds a special place in his heart because of the context of it. It's a tale told from an author who loved this world, inspired by a fan who loved this world, to show the importance of love in this world.